And welcome to Norman, Oklahoma. My name is Julius C. Jefferson Jr., and I am the president of the American Library Association. And today I have the pleasure of visiting the Pioneer Library System on this stop on ALA's Holding Space Tour. So welcome everybody. Pioneer Library System's Norman Public Library Central celebrated its grand opening in a new facility last fall. And we were so looking forward to an in-person visit to this state-of-the-art facility. Nevertheless, I am honored to be with you virtually today to talk about career and workforce development. Before we do that, I want to recognize everyone at the Pioneer Library System for the many ways you've stepped up to keep residents of Pottawatomie, McLean, Cleveland counties healthy, connected, learning, and working during the pandemic, from resume review, virtual health literacy programming, and imagination activity for kids, to making PPE for healthcare workers and nursing home residents. So thank you all. I also want to acknowledge our special guests from state agencies, academic institutions, and libraries of all types across Oklahoma. We are honored to have you join us and look forward to a productive conversation. And now I'd like to welcome and introduce today's panelists. So I will begin first with Congressman Tom Cole of Oklahoma's 4th District. Welcome, Congressman. Marissa Lightsey. Absolutely. Marissa Lightsey, Executive Director of College and Career Readiness at the Oklahoma State Department of Education. Shannon Thompson, Dean of Academics at Moore Public Schools. Eddie Foreman, Chief Executive Officer of Central Oklahoma Innovation Workforce Board. Captain Brandi Garner, Cleveland County Sheriff's Office. And Ashley Welke, Regional Coordinator for Pioneer Library System. And I'm also pleased to welcome Lisa Wells, the Executive Director of the Pioneer Library System, as my co-facilitator for this conversation. So welcome all, good to see you all. Of course, I would love to be there with you, but this is just as good because we're going to have a great conversation today. And I am going to just jump right in. Since we have the Congressman, I'm going to jump right in and start with you, Congressman Cole, as we take a look at the national view. And before we zero in on what's happening with career and workforce development here in Oklahoma, and particularly since we're joined by a national audience, Congressman Cole, can you share a view from Capitol Hill about federal policy priorities for workforce development?
Happy to do it. Anything particular you want me to talk about, or just generally plunge right in?
Plunge right in broad.
Well, you know, it's actually one of those areas that we've seen more bipartisanship than you would normally see in Washington, D.C., and the current crisis that we're in has probably contributed to that. You know, we all know that we're going to have to make significant investments just to be competitive in the international marketplace with other countries. But the coronavirus crisis has actually, you know, really shown the need for technical skills and the need to change the way in which we work. So from a funding mechanism, you actually see the original bills proposed in the House have significant improvement across the board, everything from career tech to additional technical education in schools to things like, infrastructure development in terms of broadband, you name it. I mean, you can define workforce development in a lot of different ways, but nobody's talking about cutting it. Everybody's talking about increasing it. That's unusual. And again, you see it from constituencies that sometimes are at odds with one another politically, but they see the absolutely crucial nature of these kind of investments so that every American can get a quality job, and so that we can compete with countries that are making significant investments in their people, in their workforce, and in the infrastructure to train them and move them ahead. So again, I think the future here is actually pretty bright. If we can get past some of the other things. Unfortunately, these bills don't all move, by themselves. If they did, they'd all pass with overwhelming votes. But they're part of larger bills that have other areas that are more controversial. But these investments right now aren't controversial. We actually saw, early on, for instance, one of our more important programs, which President Obama started, was a so-called apprenticeship program, and it's a really good program. Well, President Trump, in his very first budget, actually put more money into it. Now, they obviously don't agree. The different presidents that don't agree on a lot of different things. On this, they did. And we actually saw from the Department of Education this year a really extraordinary request for increase, again, in career and technical education. We have something called Member Day, where members, whether they're on the Labor, Health, and Education, Health, Human Services, and Education panel or not, so-called Labor H panel, which funds most of these programs, come in and talk about what's important in their districts and what they think needs to be funded. And it really was interesting to see some of the most liberal Democrats and some of the most conservative Republicans basically saying the same things about the need to invest in people and workforce. So I take that as a good sign going forward.
Oh, thank you so much. I mean, it's so great to hear that this is one thing we know that's important, that we can all sort of connect and move forward. I want to move to the Oklahoma side of this at the state level, and it seems Oklahoma has a highly interconnected network, including libraries, to advance career and workforce development across stakeholder groups. So I want to bring Lisa in here, and Lisa, perhaps you can start us off, and then we can hear from each of the other panelists about this.
Julius, thank you. Again, we just want to say we're so happy that Oklahoma was selected as one of the 12 stops on the tour. And I'm grateful to have such amazing partners that will take some time out to share the work that we are doing in Oklahoma and at Oklahoma Library Association and Pioneer Library System to make sure that we are working toward career and workforce development. We're happy to be a convener, and I think that libraries play a big role in convening and getting people who work together. And I'm glad that we're able to do that. And I think at the end of the day, Julius, you're going to hear about some great partnerships that some things are going on in other parts of the United States. And we heard at your kickoff in Pennsylvania, some of the same work going on with the Workforce Board. But we're really proud of what we're doing in Oklahoma, and we really feel that we're maximizing our efforts to make sure that Oklahomans are moving forward. So I'm going to turn it over to Marissa, and Marissa's going to talk about our career readiness programs and the work that we're partnering on.
Thank you, Lisa. So just a little bit about the work that we're doing in K-12 in Oklahoma is really in response to the growing skills gap that's taking place over some years. And so in the year 2025, it's projected that 77% of our careers in Oklahoma will require education beyond high school. And so with that statistic in mind, Oklahoma K-12 systems have done quite a bit of work to help prepare our students for the growing need in education. One of those initiatives being ICAP. And so that is ICAP, and it stands for Individual Career and Academic Planning. This is a new graduation requirement for all K-12 public students to go through a 4-year career development process beginning as early as the 6th grade or the required 9th grade year. And so these students will go through a myriad of activities such as career exploration opportunities, visiting colleges or career tech centers as well. They will have mentorships or internship or apprenticeships, and really just several opportunities for them to engage in the growing workforce and get access to things that they otherwise would not have gotten access to. And so we've been very proud of the opportunities for our school districts to be able to connect with their local libraries, also connecting with employers and community action agencies as well. Another resource that we do have is okedge.com. That is our website that showcases all of the several resources that both parents, families, and educators can use to start to begin these conversations and take advantage of the resources that are available.
Thanks, Marissa. And I'm sure that that the attendees are seeing this, Julius, but we are posting links to these programs in the chat as we talk about them. So please be sure to visit those. Another program that we piloted last year with our partners at More Public Schools, Shannon's going to talk about. Shannon, thanks so much. We talked about your, I forget what you called it, Prepare to Learn?
A return to learn.
Return to Learn. We talked about that before, and I know that this is a super busy time for you, but thank you for being a part of this and talking about the work that we did at More Public Schools.
Well, thank you, and thank you for inviting me today. We partnered with Pioneer Library Systems to offer an internship program to some of our high school students. It started at Southmore High School. It expanded last year to our original high school, Moore High School. And these students have the opportunity to go out into the community and basically just career explore. It is counted as an elective credit towards their graduation. They go through some basic soft skill training at the school. We also partnered with the Junior League for some of their curriculum options they had. But it really gave our kiddos a great chance to get into these career paths and look to see if it's really something that they're interested in before they go invest in tuition money and outside training. Some of our more popular things do with our police department. We had several want to intern with our local Moore Police Department. We had several want to intern in our own school system because they're interested in being teachers. And we had some going into veterinary offices, financial offices, and some left feeling really confident that that was the field they wanted to go into. Maybe not the exact career, but they knew that they were interested in that particular field. Others got in there and said, oh no, this is not for me. And I think that is just as big a success, because what you don't want to have happen is them to go train and invest finances into something that they find out later they're not interested in. And so we really felt like it was a great program. To be honest with you, it was a piece of a much larger picture we're trying to paint right now when it comes to preparing workers. I am very fortunate to serve in the community that raised me. I'm a Moore High School graduate myself. And I think historically, our community has always been, you're either on the college track or you're not. And we haven't done a really good job of educating our parents and our students of those opportunities that might not require a full 4-year research university degree, but with 1 or 2 years of training could result in a credential. And there are just a lot of really high-paying jobs available to kids who are interested in doing something technical, but frankly, our parents don't even know those jobs exist. Our Pioneer Library System also helped set up a meeting between us and the Western Electric Cooperative, and they were filling us in on all sorts of things. The one that comes to mind were linemen and linewomen who, keep our power turned on, and how that was about a 1-year training program that students could go to after graduation that had great starting wages. And so I think what I look forward to is us being a communication mechanism for these businesses, because that's something then we can go back and we can talk to our juniors and seniors in high school about. And so I really look forward to more partnerships like this with the library, because I'm really anxious in educating our community on what options we have for our students.
Thank you, Shannon. I know that you probably have a lot of success stories and things to share, but one of the ones, of course, that's important to me is Deidre Avery's daughter, who was in the program, the pilot, and actually changed what she thought she wanted to do and really changed her career path and changed where she selected to go to college. And Deidre is the economic director at Moore, City of Moore, and a good friend. And it was so great to see this program touch people in our lives in a real way, and know that, as you said, that's probably, it would have taken her a while to figure out she was on a different path than maybe what she had planned to be most of her life. So thank you again, Shannon. It's a great program, and we're so happy to be a part of it. Eddie, we're down to you and the work that you're doing with the Central Oklahoma Workforce Board, and the work that we're looking forward to doing together to kind of hit a very fast stop in March and slow to return, but I know we're going to get back to where we plan to go.
Where I plan to go? Well, I was fortunate that made a deal with Lisa that we have a career navigator that's now at the Central Library in Norman, which is a plus. Our programs deal primarily with adults and dislocated workers, and our youth program serves 16 to 24, but because of the law, we mostly spend most of our money by law, 75% of all my youth funds, on out-of-school youth. And with the legislation, they've changed that means anybody that's in any form of public institution, whether it be K-12, community college, career tech, is in-school youth. So we primarily deal with a lot of out-of-school youth and that are, I guess the best way to describe it would be sleeping on somebody's couch. Now in Norman, what we can offer along with what the public library does, and I was so happy that Lisa, as part of our deal, insisted that our staff go through their new employee orientation so they could learn about all the resources that are currently being offered through the Pioneer Library System. But our person can offer things, again, career services, which would include resume writing and basic interviewing and those kind of things. But we can also offer financial aid to people that want to go back to some kind of training and either get an associate's degree, a certification, those kinds of things. And that's a plus for working in the Norman Library. They haven't had that before. And we do a lot of business with career techs and a lot of business with community colleges because our work is focused on getting people employed and back in the workforce as quickly as possible. So the longest tenure we have with our clients is normally 2 years. And I was glad to hear Representative Cole mention the apprenticeship program. We formed an alliance with the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, and we had 35 people that we helped support in the union trade. We also have a new effort with the sheet metal workers that we'll be working with those folks as they bring apprentices into the program. Basically, they don't need as much support as some of the others, just with help with new tools and maybe a set of boots, which means that our money goes a lot further. Just as an example, we have the largest population in the state. We serve 9 counties, have 36% of the state's population, also 39% of the jobs. So we have a big task trying to unite people with work. And it's always a challenge. And again, it's nice to listen about career development and focusing people on other jobs. I just got a notice this afternoon about Tinker Airfield offering how they're going to get jobs to work on the new KC-46. Just another opportunity that it's good to produce engineers in this state, which we need, but it's also good to produce those avionics technicians and the aerospace and the power frame folks. We need a lot of those because Oklahoma City is known as an MRO facility. And also we have a lot of suppliers, not only in Oklahoma City, but out through our rural areas. And I would like to say that one of the issues is always in rural Oklahoma is still broadband. I mean, it's really tough to make things work, especially right now with the conditions we work under with a lot of telework. And I will say that we were fortunate that we created the first online application in the state that all the other workforce boards have adopted now so that they can take enrollments for people and help start them getting in a career path. But the benefit of working with Lisa, just that she has so many more resources that normally we would not have access to is just a real plus. And I would say that one of the things that makes it what the best possible scenario is that all of our really strong connections are always made at the community level, which is different. It's very hard for state-run organizations to be involved with community-based groups, such as library systems, such as reentry programs, such as diversion programs. So it's important that we're involved in that process because we make deals and share resources because nobody gets enough money, right, Congressman Cole? Nobody gets enough money.
That's what they tell me.
Yeah.
I don't think you're going to get any argument from this group. Eddie, thank you so much for highlighting that. I do just want to say, you know, we are very happy as well about this partnership. And, you know, we see a lot of your customers and a lot of your clients that are in our libraries. And we know that the hours that our libraries are open is more expansive than the hours that you can keep open in another location. So thank you so much for sharing your staff with our community at one of our locations. We've spoken quite a bit in different things about broadband, and one of the things that I'm really proud of about Oklahoma libraries is that each county in Oklahoma, all 77 counties, have a public library, and at every single public library we do have broadband, and that's something that the Oklahoma Department of Libraries made sure that that happened. And it's a resource that Marissa and I talk about a lot when we're talking about connectivity, because we know that that's a problem. It's a problem in Oklahoma, but it's a problem in many other places. But we do have broadband connectivity in each one of our counties at a public library. So we're really proud of that. And, you know, we were talking a little bit, Eddie mentioned the reentry process and how, you know, some work that we're doing benefits that. And Captain Brandi Garner from the Sheriff's Department is going to highlight a program there that I know we're very proud of, and I know they're extremely proud of, a pilot. And it's on a little bit of hold with COVID-19, but it was going great. And Brandi, I can't wait for you to tell the rest of the group and our online participants about the Reset Pod at the Cleveland County Sheriff's Office.
Thank you, Lisa. I'm really excited to be here and be able to share about what we're doing at the Sheriff's Office. I'm assigned to the Detention Division, and our mission is to inspire positive success by transforming one life at a time. Staying true to that mission, we created a program that is unique to pretty much any program I've heard of across the nation. We call it the Reset Pod. It is a housing location that has inmates in it that are ready to change their lives. We have a whole bunch of different community partners that come in, and they provide a number of services from mental health, substance abuse, education, job, workforce development. And the instructors actually go into this housing location and they'll spend time with them weekly, sometimes a couple of times a week. They build those relationships with these inmates, and when the inmates are released, they have follow-up appointments with substance abuse treatment facilities, mental health facilities. They have follow-up appointments with our partners like Pioneer Library. We've partnered with some of the local community colleges and technology centers. They're released with all of these resources in hand. And because they have built those relationships while they were incarcerated, they are more likely to follow up and actually do something with the information and with the resources that we've given them versus just getting released back into society with the thought in the back of their head, but not really sure how to navigate getting into an employment or getting employment or getting into treatment. Pioneer Library has been amazing at helping us navigate this program. It is still a pilot program, but with the inmates that have gone through it and they have been released, we're seeing some pretty promising results. Very few have returned. Things have slowed down quite a bit because of the current situation, but we're very hopeful and excited to start the program back again.
One of the things that I'm really excited about the Reset Pod, in addition to all the, you know, the workforce development work that's going on and just basic financial literacy and just a variety of things that we could just highlight. But one of the things that was very important to me that we're able to do is we have a early literacy program that's called Growing Like a Read. And we actually share with these inmates how to read with their children and what kinds of things they need to be looking for in early literacy. And so we're hoping that all of these positive impacts will help reduce the recidivism rate, but also will put a stop in the cycle, you know, the cycle that tends to sometimes affect family member after family member for multiple generations. So that was really important to me, and I don't think it was really on the mind of the committee in the beginning, but I was a passionate champion, so we were able to get that included, and we're just so thankful for the work that's going on at the Sheriff's Office and for the fact that we were able to be a part of it. I think one of the things that we're highlighting with each of these partners really is just the value, Julius, of community partners, and that kind of knowing who to call when you need to think about something. And we're lucky that Marissa is on our governing board. We have a 13-member board of trustees, and Marissa's on our board, and she basically has become the walking poster child for public libraries, and we're so excited about that. But former Cleveland County Sheriff Todd Gibson was on our board, and at one board meeting he said, "Hey Lisa, I want to do something and I need to talk to you." And so we had another meeting, and it's just the excitement that flows through those relationships, knowing that we're all here doing multiple generation work, and it's the work that we're doing today that's going to present positive tomorrow. So Pioneer's really happy to be a part of all of this, and I'm happy for Ashley Welke, our regional coordinator, who also supervises our business services specialist, to talk a little bit about the work that Pioneer's doing regarding workforce development and other topics that hinge on what we're talking about today.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Lisa. So Marissa really kind of kicked us off to introduce that concept of the jobs that we have available in the state today and the jobs that we're going to have available in the state in the future. And a lot of those require at minimum a high school diploma. And when you look at census data, about 12.5% of adults 25 or older in our state don't have a high school diploma. So right there, that really reduces the workforce that's available for these in-demand, high-paying jobs. And so we started looking at how we could positively impact outcomes in that area. And one of the programs that we came across was Career Online High School, which is something that we get through Gale. And what it is an online high school that's private and fully accredited. And so if you live, work, or own property in our service area, you can apply for this program, and the library will give you a full scholarship to go through and get your high school diploma. What's really special about this, though, is not just the high school diploma. We know that's important, but it also has a huge emphasis on workforce development and career readiness. So you create a resume, you create a cover letter, you get a certificate in a high demand career field. And we also connect you with a library staff member with a business outreach specialist that will get to know you on a personal level, help you identify what your strengths are, help you navigate the job application process. So we just recently started offering that program. It's amazing. It's definitely one of those programs where instantly you can see how it's going to change people's lives. There was one woman that we spoke to a couple of months ago, and we extended her a scholarship, and she's just been doing amazing. But she works at a daycare center, and she's worked there for years. She's worked with kiddos for years, but she doesn't have her high school diploma. And so she cannot be a lead teacher. However, she has this leadership role in the center. She's helping train new teachers as they're coming in based on her experience. And so her director told her that as soon as she gets that high school diploma, she can become a lead teacher, which allows them to get higher DHS ratings, which is wonderful. But it also gives her an instant and significant pay raise. So that's one program that we recently started offering that we're really excited about. Another service that we've been offering for quite some time is to do job and resource fairs. And so that's something we see a lot of libraries do is to have the career fairs, and something that we're really proud to offer. We always offer resume assistance and interview prep leading up to that job fair, and then we offer it at the job fair, and we've had some really great results with that. One of the things that we started doing a few years ago, though, is really tailoring that to our service members. So we are a big military state, and we wanted to make sure that we were helping be that connector, right? There's so many resources out there for service members, but it can be really hard to navigate and know, where do I go? Who do I call to get access to all of these things? So we started offering these resource fairs. And it covered a lot of different topics. We would invite employers to it. So it was a way to get a job. We would have the resume assistance, but we also had the VA there to help navigate the benefit process. And there were lots of people that had questions, or they didn't think they were getting the benefits that they should be getting. And they were able to get resolution by connecting face-to-face with someone and having that conversation. One of the partnerships that's come out of those resource fairs that was so amazing, I'm going to have to look at my notes to make sure I get the name right, but we started working with the Disabled Veterans Outreach Program of the Oklahoma Employment Security Commission. And what they do is they help, we call it resume translation. There are a lot of service members that have amazing experience, amazing leadership experience, but it can be really hard to translate that very military-based experience into civilian language. And so what they do is they help, they sit down, it's almost like an intake process, and they talk to you about what your experience is and what skills you acquired. And then they help translate that so that when a civilian employer is reading your resume or you're in an interview, they understand what those things mean. We also have at Pioneer several staff that are either in the reserves or they are veterans, and they have learned how to do this as well. And so we've gone out, not only do we offer this in the library when service members come in, but it's also something we've gone to an outreach program called Hiring Our Heroes. And that's through the U.S. Chamber, and it's about connecting service members and family members of service members to really great employment opportunities. And so we have staff now that are trained and are able to provide that resume translation service. And we worked with one service member in particular at that event. And in that initial conversation, he was just pretty discouraged. He had great experience, but he wasn't getting jobs, and he didn't know where to go. And after having that conversation with a staff member and going through that resume translation process, not only did he have a new level of confidence, he felt like he had the skills he needed, like the paper, he had the resume he needed to go and get a job. It was really awesome because he followed up with us later and let us know that he got a job. So I could talk forever about, what's going on in terms of workforce development, but those are two things that I just wanted to highlight.
No,
Thank you, Ashley.
And I want to jump in here, Lisa, because what I'm hearing certainly, and I want to applaud you at the Pioneer Library System for really being central in the community, because I'm hearing all these different individuals bringing their programs to you and you reaching out to the community. And I'm just thinking two things, and thank you for sharing some of the specific stories, because one of the reasons why we went on this tour is because we want to hear some specifics about what's going on in these communities, how individuals are impacted by the services that are provided through your library system. And I want to think about what does looking forward look like? As we move forward, especially now, how are we going to be able to continue to connect and think about career opportunities and workforce development? And it's a broad question, not to put anyone on the spot, but whoever wants to sort of go ahead and respond, I'd appreciate it.
It's a great question, Julius. Let me lead off, and then I'm sure our other panelists will share. It is a challenge. It's something that is on our minds, and I'm sure everyone that's on this call, this Zoom call, it's on their minds. But one of the things that we really have to do is just get comfortable in this digital format until we get back to a more regular in-person opportunity. And I know that for Pioneer Library System, that is something that is foremost on our mind, and we're evaluating there's a variety of tools and platforms, and you have to figure out, what's the best one for which opportunity. But I think the biggest thing to say is just be strong and be brave, and don't think that one setback is going to change the future. I mean, you're going to make some mistakes, but we have to keep moving forward. Even if it's one step back, two steps forward, we have to continue to be moving forward, or these people that we're connecting with will just be left behind. And I think that is the library's role. The library's role is to be that connector and be that light at the end of the tunnel. And I think that all of our partners, I think that's something that collectively we're in together.
Anybody else? Eddie, you want to jump in here?
Well, I would agree with what Lisa said. That the issue gets to be that there are a variety of resources that already exist in the community, but tying those together is sometimes a challenge. I mean, it just works out that way. We're required by law to be a partner with the Wagner-Pizer, which is the job-getting function that the federal government funds. And typically we house with them, but we found that in a lot of cases that we have staff, not only now with Norman Public Libraries, we have staff in a career tech, we have staff located with other partners around our area. And we find that by joining together at community level that we can bring resources together and serve people in a much more holistic approach than we can individually. I mean, I wouldn't want to say anything bad about any of the funding we get represented, but the funding comes to the state in silos, and it's up to people in communities to break down the silos.
Very good point, Eddie. Very good point. Anyone else want to jump in here?
I will, Julius. So I've been really encouraged by the work that our libraries have done across the state to be able to support initiatives such as ICAP, but also most recently the digital divide that exists that has been it's very difficult to overcome for a lot of our students and families. I'm encouraged by the fact that our libraries are able to step into those equity gaps that exist, that have been heightened or made more visible because of the pandemic, and getting many of us to realize and to understand that there are many students who are staying at home with other children to help while mom and dad are at work, or having to share one device for homework, or having to depend upon meals from their school districts every day, and while juggling maybe a part-time job to help pay with bills in the household. But I think one of the biggest pieces for me and for all of us, I hope that we will remember, is that many of those students that are in those situations now most likely haven't noticed a difference between life before the pandemic and now, because that has been life for a lot of students who just don't have the resources that others do not. And so it's been wonderful to be able to see our libraries and our school districts be able to step in those gaps, but also remembering that the difference between equality and equity, meaning that equality is everyone has shoes, and equity meaning all the shoes fit. And so our libraries have been able to make sure that our students are not only just receiving these digital tools from districts or from other places, but that they understand how to use those digital tools, because now those tools are necessary to be able to do normal things based on instruction. And so there have been many places where our libraries have been able to step in the gap, whether it's between college and career readiness literacy, providing FAFSA nights that take place after school hours, so taking the learning beyond the bell or beyond brick and mortar, and those things have been taking place for years, as Ashley and Lisa and Shannon have displayed earlier today. And so I think that moving forward, taking the lessons that we've learned from the pandemic and learning how these partnerships must exist even beyond this, because there are students who will still be able to have these issues, whether we're in COVID-19 or not, that they have to remain here. And so I've been encouraged by that, and I think that'll be the work really moving forward.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I want to go ahead and bring back Congressman Cole and take another look at the policy perspective. I mean, Congressman, you've heard of all this good work that's happening right there at Pioneer. And I want to go back to something you mentioned earlier. There's been a heightened sense of urgency about workforce development right now. And on both sides of the aisle, there have been other moments in history that have put into place some of the very policies and resources that we discussed today, like the creation of the Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act. So is this another one of those watershed moments? And if so, what needs to be prioritized to prepare a workforce for the future?
I do think it's a watershed moment. I was actually on a call a little bit earlier this morning, and somebody raised the point, what are historians, which I used to be, going to think about this period looking back? And, I would say we're dealing with a great national, really international disaster of historic proportion with coronavirus. The disease itself is deadly, 150,000 lives lost in this country alone, and then the economic dislocation that accompanied it. And it's forced us to do a lot of things differently and through distance. And to frankly weave institutions together and organizations in ways we haven't before. I think of libraries in Oklahoma, and Lisa will know this very well, any Oklahoman will, but they become our disaster centers when tornadoes hit here, which is not an infrequent occurrence. And they're a source of communication, they're a source of support. They actually help communities get their footing. We've been hit something with far more pervasive and far greater than that. And so I do think there's going to be this desire to reinvest in the kinds of infrastructure and the kinds of technologies and frankly the kinds of social networks that sustain you through crisis. I think we're trying to grapple in Washington, and you see some of this in the various, we've passed 4 coronavirus supplementals so far, and the last two, had some elements in there about not just dealing with the immediate crisis, but things like broadband, things like, the kinds of infrastructure that allow you to communicate during crisis, and frankly, that allow people to quickly adapt and change. I think there's going to be a whole set of new professions opening up, or things that were gradually opening up are going to open up on an accelerated basis. And by the same token, some of the places where we used to think of as reliable standbys for employment are very vulnerable, and in ways that people maybe don't want to frequent them in the ways that they have in the past. All those things are going to affect career choices, affect options, so again, I think quite a bit is underway that will lead us to make investments. And again, these are proven areas. We know if we put resources in libraries, they get well used. And we know the questions that we have of disparities of opportunity and outcomes are dealt with very well in public institutions like libraries. So again, I see a wave of investment coming forward in these areas.
Thank you very much for that. That certainly gives us some hope moving forward. But I want to go to all the panelists and just ask you, what does this moment mean in terms of adjusting services and programs? This is to all the panel.
I think I can speak for more public schools. We were in the middle of a STEM initiative before COVID hit. We were trying to implement a very aligned K-12 STEM program. We're going forward with that. We're going to implement it. Our last piece was our 7th and 8th grade piece that we're adding this year. But I echo Congressman Cole, because our virtual online learning program, we had paced at about 5 years out. And we've done 5 years worth of work in 3 months now, because we're having to roll this virtual online program that we had strategically laid out over the next 5 years into one summer to be ready to go online. in August. And so I do think that our students are just going to have to learn differently. I don't think this is going to go back to where it was before COVID. I think some of our kids will return, but I do think that this has opened the floodgates for those parents that want that virtual online learning. And so we are also had planned on asking our voters to approve a bond issue. We pushed that back a year, but it would complete 3 career and college centers on our 3 high school campuses, and we would house some concurrent enrollment programs through some of our local community colleges and universities. In addition to, we wanted to build a lecture center in each of those where we could have guest speakers come in the evenings from different work fields and different businesses, business leaders, and visit with our students and our parents about opportunities past senior year. And so I really see that those, the professions that are going to be offered to our children are really going to change over the next 5 or 6 years. And, you know, I read one statistic that our elementary school kids right now will work in fields that are not even available right now. They're going to have jobs in fields that are not even created at this time. And so really focusing on teaching our families to be resourceful and teaching our kids to be flexible and problem solvers and critical thinkers so that they are equipped to deal with whatever job opportunities arise.
Very good. Anybody else want to jump in here before we take questions from the participants?
One of the things that I just want to add, and this is in a bit of a different direction, but I mean, yes to everything that everyone has said. One of the other things though that we're really seeing related to the pandemic is mental health. And I think that the library has an opportunity, and especially working with our community partners, to find ways to continue to create a sense of community, whether that's in person or whether that's virtual. But I think that's a huge role that libraries have played for a really long time, is being that community hub and being that place where people can connect organically and learn from one another. And I think that now more than ever, that's incredibly important.
Yeah, I agree. I think we're hearing about that today, right, at the Pioneer Library System. I mean, it's hard to think about what the community would do if Pioneer Library System didn't have all these relationships moving together to be. I mean, you had to have these relationships long before anyone ever thought of COVID in order to be able to attempt to address some of the issues we have now. And I am just really pleased to hear everything that's going on. I'm going to look to see if we have any questions. I think we have my first question here. The question is, one of our panelists cited a study that was released by the Benton Foundation earlier today that suggested people don't know how to connect what they path towards work that they enjoy and are suited for. We talked about that a little bit. Lisa, can you talk about how you do that at the library?
Well, I think you have to be open, for one thing, Julius. I think you have to really look for what are people's strengths, and it may not be the role that they're currently in, but there's another role. And I think when you play on people's strengths and passions, then that allows you to do the things in the community that you need to do. And you can't be the community connector if the only place you're at is within the 4 walls of your library. You have to be in the community, and you have to value those community relations. And I think that historically that's been something that Pioneer Library System has done far beyond, far before I was the executive director, but that is a sort of a pillar of what we were established on.
Yeah, and I was thinking about that. You know, I was thinking that before we get to the next question, I was thinking that, you know, some of the relationships you had to have been long-standing relationships going back. And I think I know a couple of folks who were there before you. And I'm just thinking, I remember them talking about some of the things that were going on in the community. And, you know, when you think about answering a question like that, people have to know that you have to be, like you said, in the community. That's one of the things that we want to talk about, so people can hear how the library has an impact. But you have to be actively engaged, and I talk about that all the time. We have one other question I want to get to. The question is, can you talk about some of the mental health resources as related to your health literacy initiative?
Ashley, do you want to take that on or you want me to?
Sure. I'm happy to. So we actually launched this year a program that we call, well, actually, we've had it for quite some time, called PLS Reads. And the concept is this one book, one community. And we've decided each year that we're going to select a theme that is really relevant to all of our communities. And that's going to inform the book that we decide to read. And then we're also going to do subsequent, what we call community conversation programming around that. And so this year we selected mental health was our topic. And so the book that we had was Eleanor Oliphant is Completely Fine, which is an amazing story. And that really, this topic of mental health has informed a lot of the programming that we've done throughout the year. In addition to that, we also work with the Oklahoma Department of Libraries. We apply for a grant that they receive through IMLS, and it's to do health literacy programming. And several of our libraries apply for that. In fact, Pioneer was the first public library system to branch to apply for those funds. In the past, it had been other organizations or literacy departments that had applied for it. But we really took it in a different direction, and we offered physical fitness programs. And then over the past few years, we've started to offer more in terms of mental health and wellness. So we've offered lots of stress relief programs. We've had some community conversations about recognizing suicide and what to do about that. That's a really tough topic. For some people, it's kind of taboo. And a lot of our focus with our mental health programming has been to take away that stigma and invite the community to talk about these really tough topics, whether it's something that they're facing themselves or it's something that someone in their life is facing. So it's both to shine a spotlight on the fact that this is real. And then it's also to connect people to different resources in the community. You know, certainly we're librarians, right? We're not healthcare experts, but our job is to help inspire that conversation and then connect people that can really give them the help that they need.
Right, that conversation. I like that. We have time for one more question. This one is for either Shannon, Marissa, or Lisa. It's pretty appropriate, and you'll hear why. So the question is, how are you aligning messaging for parents and students as the new school year starts and continuing to engage them even with the uncertainty of schools reopening, both high schools and colleges? Who wants to take a stab at that? Marissa, Shannon?
I'll just start and then let Shannon and Marissa follow up. Just even before we went live on this particular call, Shannon was talking about, you know, the last few weeks that she's had trying to get ready for back to school and talking about public access, Wi-Fi access at their locations. And I just chimed in and said, hey, Shannon, don't forget we've got 2 libraries in your service area and our Wi-Fi is on 24/7 and we welcome people in our parking lots, even if the library is closed. So again, Julius, I think it's that knowing who your partners are and having those conversations and sharing the roadblocks that you see and maximizing your resources so that we can together eliminate those roadblocks.
Yeah.
I think one thing unique to this situation is we've had a lot of disasters in my community, and we've always had to message after the fact. But this, you know, we'd have a major storm or something that would require cleanup and messaging. But this has been an ongoing 4 months of the news and the statistics changing every single day. We are just aiming at a moving target that seems to be constantly morphing into something new. And so as far as messaging, our district, we basically just try to message through as many possible means as we have. We put it on our television station that gets to our residents that live within the Moore City. We use all 3 social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We also have auto dialers and we send emails. So when we have something important to share with our community, our parents receive it 3 or 4 different ways. And we're just really hoping that one of those ways will reach them. But I think that's the whole intent of messaging, is just to try to get it out there as many ways as you can so that there aren't any equity issues in parents receiving accurate information.
Yeah. Marissa, did you want to jump in real quick?
Sure. So I can say from so the state perspective, working with our school districts and arming them with most accurate information or resources and tools has been something that we've been working on all since last spring, really. We just finished or wrapped up a virtual conference that we usually take on the road called Engage OK. And we go to several different stops around the state, hosted by large high schools, where we'll have hundreds of educators that will come in and receive professional development for the summer. This year we had to transition that to online. We had about 4,500 people join us live for this conference. And so all sorts of tools and resources for engaging teachers and of course parents and other students online. Also other pieces is we just released our Return to Learn plan. And so that was made available to our school districts for helping them take some recommendations for engaging in online school or hybrid or of course in person and resources such as that, but also most notably communicating with your parents. Understanding that your parents are really your partners in education at this point. Of course, our parents are always involved, but now more than ever, especially for those students who are now learning from home, those parents are now more of an active role in the classroom. And so that has been something that's been, I think, a big transition, things that I've noticed. The library has, of course, like I said before, been able to step into a lot of those gaps and help parents who are basically digital immigrants is kind of, I guess, the new phrase. And so they don't regularly use computers or internet at home. And so they're able to take classes and learn more about that. And those, of course, made available online, or they have resources that they made available to them as well. And then, of course, to our students who are now just graduated high school in the middle of a pandemic and who are looking for what those next steps are. And so that has been something else that we've been able to make available and communicate to families.
All right, we actually are out of time, but I'm gonna ask one last quick question for Lisa. So where can people go to get more information about Pioneer Library System's career and workforce development resources?
Well, you can always go to our website, pioneerlibrarysystem.org, and please reach out. Probably our contact information, both Ashley and myself, is somewhere in the chat or is readily available. It's first initial, last name at pioneerlibrarysystem.org. So that's A. Welke or L. Wells. And we're happy to continue to answer questions and dialogue with our colleagues.
Well, I mean, absolutely. We could continue this conversation for another hour. We are at the top of the hour. So we have to wrap it up for today. But as you can see, libraries offer much more than books. We also provide important tools, technology, and expertise to help connect our communities with opportunities, including career and work. We want to enable even more libraries to offer these kind of innovative and impactful services. And we appreciate what you've shared with us today. So thank you very much. You've all provided much food for thought, as well as great examples of partnerships that benefit a wide range of stakeholders. I want to thank my co-facilitator, Lisa Wells. Absolutely, thank you, and your team at Pioneer Library System for your gracious hospitality today. When I do come, I expect a big lunch. You're gonna hook me up with lunch? Okay, thank you.
We'll see you in March.
Absolutely, and for the tremendous work that you do every single day. I want to thank our panelists, Marissa Lightsey, Eddie Foreman, Captain Brandi Garner, Shannon Thompson, and Ashley Welke. Also want to give a special thanks to Congressman Cole for joining us today and for the historical and policy perspectives that you brought to the conversation, and for being a champion for libraries. On behalf of the American Library Association, I want to thank you, Congressman Cole, for your support of the Library Stabilization Fund Act that will help the branches in Pioneer Library System and libraries across the country continue to provide critical services to their communities during this very challenging time. Friends, remember to reach out to your elected officials and thank those who have already signed on to support LSFA and encourage those who haven't to sign on today. Thank you to our event co-host, the Oklahoma Library Association, and all of OLA members who have tuned in today. I also want to give a shout out to ALA members who are on the bus with us. I appreciate you being on the bus with us. We're getting ready to head out. So join me tomorrow as the bus heads to New Mexico for a conversation at Jimenez Pueblo Community Library and broadband access and tribal libraries. Visit the website for more information and follow the entire tour on social media at hashtag ALA Holding Space. So now I want to say to you all, stay safe, be well, and thank you for holding space with us today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Julius. It's our pleasure.
Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you, Eddie.